So this will be the third Dodge going to the scrapyard to keep my nice GMs on the road with Cummins in it. There we go. Now this flywheel, you can see there's some cracks in there, and those are heat cracks just from when it got hot. I don't replace them because like brake drums on transports and that, I've gone to seminars where they say, well, as soon as you have a crack, what happens is the surface goes like this, and this actually machines your disc quicker. I don't believe that because I've never seen a drum that doesn't have these cracks in it. I think that's just a salesman talking. It's not great, but it's not gonna hurt it at all. So we just machine that down 5 or 10 thou, see what it looks like underneath that, and then put her back together again. So here we go. Take an oil sample from this engine with our fancy new machine flywheel, send that out, and see what shape this one's in. Start tearing the front end apart anyway while we're waiting. Do the KDP and timing cover and front main seal, and then see what it's like inside, whether we're gonna pull the head off and do rings on it. Here we go. So I think I've done this before with Tahoe and explained some stuff, but I'll do it again quick. The fan is actually left-hand thread, so to get that off, just grab the water pump pulley with either a pair of chain vice grips or a pair of these big slip joint pliers. Just hold it, and then grab a big wrench. It's not the right size, but 1 5/16, put it on there. Take a hammer and just crack the wrench. Just crack it clockwise, and it'll take the fan off. Then the water pump, you can just take that 10mm socket, take the bolts off, slide that pulley off, and then a 15mm does the front main pulley. Pull that off. You don't need a puller for it, just carefully pry behind it. Slide that off. Probably a little bit rusty. There you go. And even the standard transmissions still have a vibration dampener on it. You can see the rubber starting to go. This one's probably still okay for a bit yet. I know the 4BTs, they didn't have a vibration dampener on it. They just rely on the clutch to take care of the vibration. And it helps if you put a vibration dampener on it just to take a little bit of that out. Then pull your water pump off. All that is, sorry, it's not a water pump, it's just the idler. And then just pull all your timing cover bolts out. When anybody says killer dowel pin, KDP, I mean this pin right here, and lots of stuff on the internet. Just make a little bracket that goes in front of that and keeps that pin from popping out. What happens is it rattles out over time and hits these gears and makes a big mess. So that was the one main flaw on this engine. Other than the P-pump, this cam gear is only held on there with a taper. These bolts are for popping that gear off. If you don't have this perfectly clean, when you pop this back on the injection pump, tends to turn on the pump because it actually takes quite a bit to turn the pump, and your timing will be delayed, and your timing will most likely end up at top dead center instead of whatever it is before. I think this one is 12.5 degrees before top dead center. You can advance it a bit more if you want a little more horse, especially if you're adding more fuel in that. Advancing it does help. But when you advance it, if you disturb this, you start the chance that this gear will slip on there. So it's best to do it when the cover's off and you can get at it nicely. Otherwise, pull your rad and do it right. Because yeah, you pull this gear off, you have a tiny bit of room to work with the cover on. And then you gotta stick a Q-tip in there with rubbing alcohol or something and make sure that's clean when you pop that gear back on again. So we'll get into the pump timing later by looking at the flag inside the pump, but for now we'll just do the KDP and the front main seal and then go from there. Here we go. No, the stud can't rattle out. I put a new seal in housing, and there's other videos that show me pressing it in. Really, there's nothing to it. Make sure it's nice and straight. Biggest thing to mention is that put the seal in a different spot. You can see on the crankshaft here, there's a little groove, so I just put the seal in way at the back, and that way it'll be riding more here than here. If you put the seal in the exact same spot, most likely it's gonna leak. And torque it down evenly. Do it in 3 stages. So this is how I made the mount. I just made took 1/4-inch plate, and you can see I just welded like a C shape right over top, and then drilled 2 1/2-inch holes in there that line up with that. And then these are the first gen mounts, which are holding up just fine. Just keep in mind that this bolt is offset from, like, this is the bolt for the piece going through the bottom plate, so make sure you get it in the right spot. And then basically the same with this one. This mount is a little different. It's welded right at the back here. You can see the plate goes right to the end there. I could put this on an angle, make it look a little nicer. It's not really doing anything. I stick this in first and then kind of move this around to the engine and drop it in. There's a plate that goes in between here. I also find it's easier to leave the oil pan and the sump off, put your engine in, and then hold it up nice and tight to the top here, and that still gives lots of room to already have the sump in the oil pan. And then make sure your gasket's nice and clean and whatever. And then I got just enough room to pick up the sump, bolt it to the bottom of the engine, and then slide the pan kind of forward and bolt that to the bottom of the block. I find it too difficult to squeeze it in. It's pretty tight with the top here. Now it's so tight that I still had to notch. You see those fins there? I notched them, and then I had to kind of hack it while it was still in there. Just take another little chip off, just for the room for the oil pan. It does get kind of tight. There's your transfer case. Very simple, very straightforward. When you get your new parts, line them up to the old ones and make sure that you did get the right parts. There's a lot of variances in these. Like there's a DLD, DHD, there's a 243, there's a 241. And if somebody accidentally sent you the wrong fork or the wrong chain or the wrong gear, it'll bind, it won't work right. And if you aren't 100% satisfied in how it went back together again, there's probably something wrong, and just double check those parts. It's very straightforward, and that's all there is to it. Here we go. Now for the wiring on this, the alternator on the GMs I think is on the driver's side front, and on the Cummins it's on the passenger front top. So the AC compressor is still in the same spot, so you don't have to touch any of the wiring for the AC. The alternator wires, just the 2 feed wires, I made longer. Your positive wire, I put another battery right here, and I just run that right up into the battery there. The only ones for sensors, crank sensor, which I put on the very front of the pulley, my ground here, oil pressure, which is right about here on the Cummins, and the temperature, which is on the back of the engine here. Now in that loom, I add a 1 wire here, and I put that on a temperature sensor on the front here, and that sensor, you can get different sensors that ground that sensor. It's just a 1 wire sensor that ground it when it hits a certain temperature, and I use that to power the ground on a relay to turn the fans on. So it's more of a mechanical way to turn electric fans on, rather than using the truck. I also run the extra wires, just the 2 wires for the glow plug. It's hot in here. And then another ground in there. Can't have enough grounds. And that's all there is to wiring the Cummins engine. The solenoids for your glow plugs. It's hot. I just took these off of Dodge. They still work great. And then all it is ground on one side, and then I just put a little push button in the dash, just a temporary, make sure that it disconnects, because you don't want these on all the time. Not a toggle switch that you leave on and forget to turn off. That's fine for you if you remember every single time, but if somebody hops in your truck and wants to move it from here to there and puts the glow plug on and forgets to turn that off, they'll kill your battery and fry alternators and stuff. That's no good. Other than that, the rest of the wiring, there's not a whole lot to it. So these newer GMs, you can't adjust the door pins, and what happens when you open the door and the wind catches it and flings the door open, it'll actually bend this door post a little bit, and then you start hearing wind noise in your ear around the gap in the door. So a body guy told me that, so I just took all the hinges and I just brazed them.
just braze them right to the edge. I figure it's stronger there than it is where the spot welds are, like right about there. So far this truck has never really given any wind noise, and then with the Cummins you can't hear it anyway, but yeah, if you are hearing wind noise, you might want to take your door off and just push against that or bang against that with a sledge and a big bar and try to bend that door back a little bit, and then just be more conscious of it when it's a windy day that you hold on to your door, because that's an issue with these. So here we go. So I grabbed this from a Wreckers, which is an intercooler, front rad support, and radiator off of a Dirty Max. It's a good shape other than a couple bent fins here, not the end of the world. Everything else looks okay. Now, these are the electric fans off of the half-ton two-wheel drive. We'll see if these fans will just bolt onto this. Try and go with electric. I might have to still drop those a little bit. I might have too much, but I think I'm okay. Nope, not so much. So the bolting is different. So now I get to make my own fitment, but I gotta measure. I think I got 9 inches between the rad and the back of this to the front of the engine. So on the upside, the intercooler and piping is the same size, and so is the upper rad hose, just not the lower rad hose. So just an adapter for the lower rad hose. So I don't really have to braze any new fittings into the new block there. So that's an upside. Here we go. This is the clutch. Wash the bell housing off. Definitely we're gonna change that release bearing because it sounds like shit compared to the new one there. Nice and quiet. It's always kind of a toss-up on what to lube the shaft up with. There's a little bit of lubrication in the bearing itself. I usually add a little bit of grease, not too much, because the clutch dust might sit on there and become counterproductive if it gets gummed up. I just want to put a little bit on there. So I want to put a little bit of grease on there as well. The release fork sits on that. Well, that was just mean. Wonderful. We're going to install that in the flywheel though. I never buy the cheapest clutch, somewhere in the middle. Don't need to buy the most expensive one, but there is different quality in the clutches as well. So we're gonna bolt our new clutch to our freshly machined flywheel after we install our lubed up pilot bearing, and then we can line up the clutch. So here we go. There's just something about a nicely machined flywheel. I don't know what it is. You can see the cracks there. I don't know if you can still see that. Still a little crack there and a little crack. I don't think at the end of the day they don't make that much of a difference. I wouldn't replace the flywheel just for that. A little bit of Loctite on the bolts doesn't hurt either. Torque them down nice and even. Going in a star pattern and only turning a little quarter turn at a time. When you are done, you want to be able to put your pilot in and out very easy. So I'm going to polish my valve covers before they disappear underneath that lip, and we're just ready to throw it in the truck. I'm getting excited. Here we go. So she's in there, and it's like it was made for this thing. The only difference is I'm about 1.5 inches too short or too low, and I don't want to go up any higher because I'm already pretty tight with my bell housing there. So I'm going to take pretty weld this plate off the top and just weld it down low, gain it all here. The weight of it will sink it down a little bit. The holes actually line up pretty well, 100%. So that's nice. Drop a bolt through And I used the mount from the GM, and I just had the oval of holes just like 1/8 of an inch on both sides, and then I bolted right up to the NV4500. Shorten the drive shaft a little bit. The front drive shaft is probably okay. I gotta pull it out a little ways, but 33 inches, and I think that was 29, but it'll extend that 4 inches. So drop the exhaust off and put the new exhaust on. It's pretty well lit underneath here. I'll probably just drive it on the front wheels because I was cool doing that in the Dodge. So run my fuel line up, put the exhaust in, and then plug in a couple sensors, starter down here, and that's about it for underneath the truck. So here we go. All right, first start, and it's nice because really you don't have to have anything up other than fuel. I got the fuel hooked up, the exhaust, the power steering pump so it doesn't leak all over the place. I can't run it for too long because there's no coolant in it, but there's nothing better than hearing the engine run. So, and then even when your wife says, "Why are you taking so long on the truck?" you can say, "Hey, it runs." So, well, the fuel shut-off isn't hooked up, but we'll just do it by hand. So really it's just cranking it over and making sure it's got fuel. Beauty of the Cummins. Nice. It's alive. Filthy Rich here from Deboss Garage. I just wanted to say thank you for watching Deboss Garage the last little bit. Thank you for subscribing and for coming to the open house, the guys that came, and as a very special thank you to all the Patreon supporters. There's two of us at Deboss Garage. Me in front of the camera and Aaron behind the camera. I gotta tell you, you gotta get yourself an Aaron. Moses had an Aaron, and Richard Rawlings had an Aaron, and I really like my Aaron. Aarons are good people. Deboss Garage wouldn't be what it is without Aaron. He does all the social media, everything behind the computer. I'm not great with computers. I just like Frankensteining things up in my shop. Aaron actually lives 45 minutes away, and he uploads the videos privately first. I watch them, make sure that they're edited the way that makes sense to somebody who knows about cars, because Aaron is not a car guy yet. We didn't really get to say everything we wanted to on the Commander, so I'm just gonna say that now. So with the Patreon, I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea that I want you guys to help build me a truck because I want this awesome ride. That's not the point. Playing with Legos as a kid, I built something, never really played with it, took it apart and built something else, and now I get to do that as a job. My full-time job is in the shop here, and Aaron has a full-time job besides the YouTube, and this is just kind of a side gig. As my full-time job being a mechanic, I can't make any other videos other than what customers are bringing into the shop. And we got some cool stuff happening, don't get me wrong. I love the LS build is new to me, lots of Cummins swaps, the 85 crew cab build, RT Baker, like I have a great job. I love every minute of it, but I can only make videos on what I'm getting paid to do by customers.
By you guys supporting us on Patreon, you guys are the customers, and you guys just trying to listen to what you guys are saying, and Patreon lets you guys be the customers, and you guys can tell me what to do. When we're done with it, I'm not going to keep the truck. I'm going to drive it for a little while, take it to different shows, get as many of the Patreon supporters to actually see it in person as I can, I guess. We'll tell you which show we're going to go to, and if you're a Patreon supporter, we're going to take you for a ride, plain and simple. But when we're done with it, we're going to sell it. Now, Aaron and I are both involved in different charities, and some are the same. We both sponsor different children overseas. We're involved with Truth for Teens and Rick Osborne. I'm also involved with a mechanic shop and construction school in Burkina Faso, Africa. I've been there a couple times and I want to keep that going. So we sell the vehicle and the monies would go to charities, whatever is on top of the original build. Now Patreon will give you other perks other than watching a cool build. I'm getting overwhelmed on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube on how to fix your vehicle, and I can't answer everybody's questions. I'm sorry, and help me out and I'll help you out. Basically is how it's going to go. On top of that, we'll be giving away t-shirts and different swag, stuff like that. And we're still young, we're still learning, we're still growing, and we're still fixing out and getting all the kinks out. We'd like to raffle the vehicle off, but we're looking into that, and that's actually really difficult, especially with borders and emissions and all that stuff. I think we're leaning more towards the charity side because then a lot more people get a benefit rather than just the one guy who gets it at the end. So I just wanted to say thank you again to everybody who's been helping us out so far along the way, and we're excited about what's coming up. We got some other really cool stuff coming up in the fall yet, and I think I'm booked for the next 4 months or so in the shop, so it's really exciting. Thanks again, and there was one more thing that Aaron wanted me to say. Oh, here we go.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you love the channel, consider picking up a tape boss to make those projects go faster so you got more time to watch YouTube. And remember, if you're not filthy, you're not rich.
If you watch the video of me driving with the boot on the back and the thermos on the roof, if I let it sit for the outtakes, if I let it sit for longer than 2 minutes, it would lose its prime, it wouldn't fire up. You'll see if it fires up this morning after sitting all night. If not, I think it was just a leaking fuel line or wrong fuel pressure in there, but we'll see what happens. That makes me happy.